talking with Al Mazziotta, Alex Mazziotta, Alexander Mazziotta. What's your preference for the name? We call
Doesn't matter.
Okay, we call you Big Al.
Okay.
All right. So, Big Al's turning 100 years old in 3 days, right?
Correct.
Yes. All right. So, what I want to ask first was, with this longevity, is there something you can point at and attribute to a mentality, the type of food you ate, habits you had or didn't have?
No. I was just, in my day, I was just being what the other kids were. And after that, I just went with the flow. Now, I lost my wife. It's at least, I think it's about 20 years ago. And that was a big blow to me. And that made me do things probably a little differently than I would have had she been living.
So, in what ways were you doing things differently?
Now, how I do.
After she passed, you said, "Well, I'm going to make some life changes."
Well, I kind of got within myself, and I wasn't outgoing as much as I had been. And if she had been alive, I think things would have been a little different there.
Better.
Oh, better.
Yeah.
No question.
So, are there parts of your life that you can say, this was a really highlight thing, this was a really special moment for me?
Well, boy, sure, there were special moments, although I forget most of them. I remember the Second World War and my participation in it. That would be from 1942 to 46, when the Second World War.
Yeah.
And that, and then of course my marriage, my children being born, all those were big moments in my life, and they always will be. That's about it.
So, can you talk more about your service? Did you serve in Europe or in the Pacific?
Oh, I served, I wound up in India, and my service there was intercepting Japanese messages. Now, they were in code, but they used the Morse code for their letters, numbers. We were able to determine what they were sending at the beginning of the messages, but after that, no, we didn't know what was in the body of the messages. That was sent into Arlington Hall, right in Washington, D.C., and they interpreted, or they deciphered what it was, and it helped a lot in the war.
Well, thank you for your service. That was critical. I know
Thank you.
Enigma was breaking the Germans' code, and we had these people who could break the Japanese
Right.
codes, and that's critical. In,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you served through the end of the Pacific conflict too, because that's where you were stationed. Right?
Yeah. Yep. And I came home with the victorious troops.
Yes.
It was quite a deal.
Better than winning a Super Bowl, huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
So, can you share about what it was for you to be a father? Like, how did you approach parenting your children? You had 4 children, 3 boys and a girl.
Yeah. Well, the first one was Yo. I was all agog about that, and it was quite an event. It happened. Oh, I recall a lot of the older people were counting on their fingers to make sure it was 9 months and not that type of thing. But after that, I more or less became a pro at it, and we had 3 more after Robert. It was good good life.
So what do you consider like the role of being a father to be? What does it include? What does it exclude?
Role of being a father. Well, you have to bring your children up in the correct way. Now, naturally, you teach them what you learned, and something more than that, you know. It was an experience that you don't forget. Bringing up children is something else. You have to discipline them. When do I discipline them? How do I discipline them? Well, all of that. But it works out. You do things. You do things using your noodle. Yeah. What can I say? You probably gone through it.
Yeah, a couple times. But I'm not
But
being
you know,
interviewed. Yeah. So does parenting of fathering a daughter different from fathering a son, in your opinion?
You better
Sure.
say yes.
Definitely. You have to, well, you warn the daughter, you warn her more than you do the boys. At least that's the way I did it. And of course, the mother comes into play too. She has a lot to say about the daughter that I wouldn't think about. Things like that, yeah. There's a difference.
Is there life lessons that you would like to share with others?
Well, not really. You just go by what you learned from your parents, if they're on the ball, and that would be it. You just follow their instructions, their way of life, and especially if you have good parents. Now, if you have some hooligans, what the hell are you going to do? You're going to wind up like them. That's the way I look at it.
So the
Parents,
Go ahead.
the quality of your parents has a lot to do with how you're going to bring up your children and how you're going to be in your life.
I think that's very, very wise. How long ago did you realize that? When you were first a father, or even before that?
It took me a long time.
90 years, huh? You learned it 10 years ago.
Well, see, my dad died. I didn't know my father too well. He died young. And my mother remarried. So she had 2 children with the second husband, and me and my sister Ann, who is still living. She's living up in Hazleton. That was it. But what was I going to say? Is I didn't know my dad that well. He was a tailor. He was short in stature, but he was a good man. He provided for his family and so on and so forth. But I don't recall him because he died early in my life. My mother, well, that was it. She didn't get married again. She was married twice. First husband died, I guess, in the flu, you know what they call the flu epidemic of that
1918?
time. Yeah, in that time. And my brother Stanley and my sister Connie. Connie was the oldest, and she got married, but she didn't have any children. I don't know what it was, but my brother married, and they didn't have any children. But he wound up being a colonel in the services. he served in the Second World War, like I did, but he was there a few years before me. And like I said, he came out as in fact, that was his career in life, was the service.
So how would you describe your wife? Like just in a short amount of time, say, here's what I think about how I would describe my wife to someone who didn't know her.
She was a loving person. She controlled her children. She was a good woman. That's one word, or as short as I can be, is that she was a very good woman. And I really lost a companion when she passed away. And she passed away, it's about 20 years now. Memory, I don't recall exact dates, this, that, and the other, but we were okay together.
How would you describe your first son, Robert?
Robert, well, you know, it's just like any first child that you have. You dote on them. Although he says I was pretty much a disciplinarian when he got a little older. Of course, then we had my daughter Ann, and her two children still live in Hazleton, and her husband passed away. Now my sister Ann is, I didn't say my daughter, did I?
You said daughter, yeah.
No, that was a mistake.
Okay.
I'm talking about
Excuse
my
me,
sister.
Curt.
So go back, talk about, did you want to talk about Ann or Marie?
Well, my sister Ann, we got along. Just how siblings are, you know, we had our differences and so on. But she has two children, and now she doesn't live at home because she needs treatment, and she's I think 95. It's about 5 years difference between Ann and me.
Could you describe your daughter, Marie, in a few words, or?
Marie Annette.
Yeah.
I think she's beautiful, and she was a good daughter. She was a good child. Hey, I can't say anything real, you know, I can't say anything bad about her. She was they were all okay. They were all good. They needed discipline, we gave it to them. But I think they all turned out okay. Well, you know Mark. Well, you know them all.
I do know them all, but I want to hear what
And
you would say.
and you don't know, because, well, she's still living up in Hazleton with the two boys, but she's in a home. She's in a home. She's a convalescent home.
So what would you say about your next son, Mark?
Mark, well, he's here, so I won't talk about him.
If you
I won't tell you.
say anything
I
good to
won't
be
tell-
alive.
I won't tell you all the bad things about him. I'd have to be telling you lies.
You don't have to tell him. He knows.
No, everything. I think all of my children were great. They turned out okay at some points in my life, and in their bringing up, their training. I may have made some mistake, but I think I did all right. Me and my wife,
Yes.
we did okay.
And Alex?
Oh, Alex, well, Alex has his, I should say that he is normal, but he has little different traits. But he's overcome most of them.
So if you look back on your life, what do you think is some of the things you're most proud of? Talking about your service, you talk about your being
Yeah,
a father,
well, getting married,
being a husband.
that was, yeah, that was a big, big moment in my life. But I forget most of all that. If for that matter, like I told you before, I forget a lot of things that happened in the past. Sometimes it'll come back to me. A certain incident or a certain time in life will come back and I'll think about it and I'll say, yeah, that was a good day. But then I forget it. I don't know why. It's just a fact. What can I say?
So I won't, maybe this last question, what advice you would give for someone who's maybe a lot younger to sort of have a more maximize the fulfillment in their life? Is there any sort of guidance you would give in that?
Well, if they're a religious person and they follow the precepts of the Lord, they're going to be okay. That's it. They'll be all right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
What?
Could you see if you could put that straw paper for the straw back on the straw?
Oh,
Yeah, do that trick again.
this.
Back on the straw.
Oh, yeah, that's no problem there.
You crumpled
I
the
mean-
paper. You crumpled the paper a little bit. It might be harder.
Oh, sure, now, you give it to him. Good job.
There it is.
That's patience.
Now hold your hand out like this. That's steadier than mine.
Anything steadier than you.